So we have stitched the front to the back at the side seams, number 3. So here's number 3. You can see we've stitched those. On to number 4. To keep elastic from getting stuck in the seam allowance as it's inserted, use fusible web or machine basting to anchor to the garment. So you could use this fusible web. We do have it, but I found this to really make the casing now stiff and unattractive. So we're going to use the machine basting method, and we will remove those stitches. The only difference for us is we're going to make it a little easier on ourselves, and we're going to continue down at the bottom as well. So to do a basting stitch, you start with the standard number 1 stitch length, but we're going to use the longest length possible. So here on the stitch length bar, we're going to increase it to the longest stitch possible, which is the 6.0 stitch. And this is a basting stitch, so we will not tie off or reverse because we want to be able to remove those stitches. So we want them loose. And we're going to stitch at the edge of the seam allowance. We're going to go down, say about 3 inches, because we want to make sure that it's basted when we fold this over and then fold it over for the casing, that our stitches come down below here so that we can easily insert the elastic. So go down about 3 or 4 inches, or if you are planning on using a very wide elastic, you'll need to go down even further. So I'm just going to start stitching, and this doesn't have to be straight at all. It should be smooth. You don't want to have any puckers in there, but it doesn't have to be, because you're going to remove these. So I'm going to make sure I have my needle down, and I'm going to pick up the presser foot, and I'm going to pivot. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to go a little further because that's a little not quite long enough, I'm thinking. And make sure not to get the other things caught in there. Okay. And now I'm going to pivot. Make sure it's all smooth again. Come across, stop before I get off the edge of the seam allowance. Pivot again. Lower the presser foot again and stitch back up. And then again, I'm not going to tie off. I'm just going to stop at the edge, tap my foot, and I can just cut the threads off at the edge, or I can use the seam cutter. All right, so you're going to do that for every seam at the top here that the casing is going to go through. So you have the center fronts and center back and the 2 side seams. So you need to do that basting around each one. And then we're ready to measure for our casing.